Good morning, YouTube. Today we are going to be working on the rear suspension of my 2005 Lexus GX470. This will be part one of two. Second part will be the front suspension. So I've got all the parts laid out here. So today we're going to be removing the old airbags, and we're going to be installing these new Arnot replacement airbags that are supposed to be better and tougher. A little bit, they don't have the sleeve on them. They're supposed to be, got Continental, made by Continental Tire, along with Arnot. Left and right is the same. They've got kind of a swivel adapter, so I want to put those in. I'm also going to be replacing the rear, which is the electronic shocks, with original OEM Lexus, ordered from Lexus shocks. And then of course you can see the strut that'll go in the other video, but the Lexus struts in the front. And then lastly, I'm also going to replace the compressor. I bought an Arnot compressor for the rear airbags. It did also come with a relay, which is in that bag, so that's nice. So just real quick, you might wonder why I'm not doing a spring conversion or going with Bilsteins or anything else like that. And for me, I really like the way the Lexus rides. My kids like it. My dad likes it. I have to drive him around sometimes, which I don't mind, and it's nice to have a very comfortable car. We've traveled in it a lot, and so I thought a lot about doing a spring conversion, about doing all these other things, putting a lift. But at the end of the day, the GX is so capable and it rides so nice that I decided to just stick with OEM, spend the money. I am going with Arnot Airbags, but I'm staying with Airbags because it rides so nice. And so for me, that's more important than maybe the occasional off-road that I might do. So that's what we're going to do today. I also want to tow. I like towing. I have a trailer, RV, that kind of thing, and so I went with the Arnot airbags because they're that much tougher. Also, the Arnot has a lifetime warranty on their airbags, so if they do fail, I can get another one. So we're going to go through that today. Also, a little PSA to all the shade tree mechanics out there. If it's hot in the summer, you don't have shade, you need to make shade. Make a breeze. Like, make yourself much more comfortable. It will make a huge difference. Don't sit out in the sun. And we need to drop the spare tire out of the back, so don't be a dummy like me and do it before you jack the car up so you don't have as far to drop it. But still not that big a deal. Alright, so wheels off. Here's what we're looking at. Car's jacked up. I like to cover the little stuff. Going off body hard point right in front of the drag link. Both sides. Alright, so here's our shock mount and our shock. So there's our electronic shock. We're going to replace that. Disconnect that. Take off top bolt. The back shocks are stupid easy, right? So super easy. Take that bolt off. Literally drop out and replace. Easy peasy. And of course there's our airbag. So I'm going to go through replacing that and how that goes. So now that we got the mud flap off, you can see better access to where the compressor is, and it's under the shield, so we're going to take the shield. Alright, so to get this off, there's 3 pop clips. There's one right here, there's one way up inside of there, it's way up there, and then one over here that we popped out, so I got to pop the third one. That's way up in there. Like the others, it's easier just to get a flathead screwdriver and just pop it out. Okay, so this is the location of the compressor. So we took off the mud flap, right? So 2 T30 Torx, I believe, and then the one little screw out guy from below that came out. Then we had to take the shield off. It's got 3 pops, one way up high and one underneath and one in the back. But now that it's out, here's our compressor, right? So it's on the outside of the frame behind the driver's side mud flap. So now we're going to take it out and swap it out.
Now, I filmed a lot going through the process of removing this compressor, and I learned a lot as we went. So I'm going to jump ahead to the end when I've got the compressor out to better show you the brackets and how it comes out, and then I'll jump back to actually removing it.
I will also say I've now put this in once by mistake without the bushings. Getting it out, actually, it was really easy. It was just this piece was hung up because it kind of goes up over the little subframe that this guy sits in. So when you're trying to take this unit out, pay attention to this little piece hanging along with the hose, kind of rotate it around, and you should be able to get it up off the top. If I had known that when I was taking it out the first time, it's kind of hard to see up in there, would have been easy. But now that I know that, now you know that, getting this out is actually pretty easy. I still would loosen up the subframe because it allows you to kind of turn things, get everything loose, but you're just going to take this out as a unit. Watch out for this little connector. That's what hangs up on top of the subframe. It kind of hangs up there. If you can get it rotated, then it's pretty easy. The frame that goes around the compressor will not come out unless you take the fender out, which is actually, that's not even true. There's the body panel that's underneath that, so it's not coming out. So it did help to loosen it up, but ultimately you're going to have to remove all the cables. I removed the airline that connects up to the tank. It's pretty flexible as long as you're careful with it, so I was able to take it out. That does not require a special tool, it just comes out with a clip, unlike all the others. One thing I will note, this is from rockauto.com. The Arnot compressor says it comes with an integrated dryer. Clearly it does not. Look through the box, it's not there. So that's a dryer assembly, it needs to come off and get swapped out. And so we'll put that onto the new one. Otherwise, it's new also. Arnot compressor is actually in Japan. It's supposed to be like, OEM or better. So Ascene, I'm not sure how you say that, but that's the Arnot rebranded Ascene or Essen or whatever. So we're going to swap this dryer off. Looks like it pretty much just pulls off and pops on. And then we'll bolt it together.
Okay, and now we're going to jump back to removing the compressor and going through that process.
All right, so I started by taking this off. All right, there's 3 mount points. There's this one on the bottom, and there's 2 on top. Then realized I can't get to the 3rd one on top until I take this overall bracket off, which it's actually attached to. So before you get started, it just has these 2 bolts. So take these 2 bolts off the frame. This whole thing should just drop out. This is why I make these videos. All right, so I figured it out so you don't have to. Okay, so this main bracket, so here's the compressor. It's got 3 mount points, 1 here and then 2 up top. It's attached to this larger bracket. Don't take this bracket out. That's what I initially thought. Instead, when you get up here, this is the rear of the vehicle, okay? Take out this little reservoir. It's got a bolt right up here. It looks like maybe a 10. Take these 2 connection lines off, take that out. That's an easy thing to get out of here. That'll let you get to the 3rd bolt. Because you can get to this one and the one on the front side, but this one on the back side you can't get to because this little reservoir is in the way. So just take this little reservoir away. There's too many other connections, pain in the butt to get to otherwise. So we're going to take this reservoir out, move it out of the way. We don't even have to disconnect it actually. All we got to do is, we don't have to disconnect the lines. All we have to do is disconnect the bolt holding it in to get it moved out of the way. We can take this guy out. Here's our air input line. You'll see that it is connected through the dryer going up. So we're getting dry air because we're right at the bottom of the vehicle. So good design, right? So if we drive through high water, we're not sucking air into the system. So there we go. So we're going to move this guy out of the way. We're just going to take this bolt off. We're not going to disconnect the air lines. Disconnect the bolt. This guy will slide to the side. We get the 3rd bolt. All we got to do is disconnect this air line and this power supply, which we just did. Well, nobody said it was easy to get to. Well, there it is. Got a little ratcheting spanner. It's a 10. And we're going to get it out of here. About the only way you can get in there. It means we've got to disconnect the incoming air line here. So I've started taking these brackets out to pop it loose. What I did was actually just take a small needle nose pliers and squeeze here to release. Don't squeeze the airline, but just squeeze this to give a little more room, and then just pop the airline out. So one single 10mm bolt, and then it just pulls off. It's got a little O-ring. Okay, so there's the old one. And I took the cover off. Oh, sorry. Took the cover off of the new one. There it is. I'm going to clean this out just a little bit. and give it just a little dab of silicone grease, and then slide it back on and bolt it up. So that'll be an easy swap. It's also a good time to note this air connection is the same that was on the other side. So you remove this plastic safety clip, remove this metal clip, and the whole thing just slides out. So you don't need the special tool for this. The other thing I forgot to mention, of course, is we need to swap these little bushings over to the new one. I will also say I've now put this in once by mistake without the bushings. Getting it out, actually, it was really easy. It was just this piece was hung up because it kind of goes up over the little subframe that this guy sits in. So when you're trying to take this unit out, pay attention to this little piece hanging along with the hose. Kind of rotate it around and you should be able to get it up off the top. If I had known that when I was taking it out the first time, it's kind of hard to see up in there, would have been easy. But now that I know that, now you know that, getting this out is actually pretty easy. I still would loosen up the subframe because it allows you to kind of turn things, get everything loose, but you're just going to take this out as a unit. Watch out for this little connector. That's what hangs up on top of the subframe. It kind of hangs up there. If you can get it rotated, then it's pretty easy. Okay, so new compressor is in. So, things I've learned. So, this little reservoir, it's hard to see because it's not lit, but there's a reservoir in here. There's two bolts. There's one on the side and there's one on top. If you'll take the bottom one off and loosen the top one, this guy will slide away and you can get to the third bolt that holds. There's basically one of these here, and then there's two up top. This one you can't get to because this guy's in the way, but if you'll unbolt him on the side and just loosen the top, you can slide him out of the way. And of course, take this tube off. You have to do that anyways. Then you can get that third bolt out, get the other one out, disconnect the harness. There's a harness on top that you've got to disconnect, as well as this guy. So there's this guy, and I'll show you the top as well, and then I'll come back to that. But when you take them out, if you'll just and then loosen this bolt, there's kind of a subframe that holds this guy in. You cannot get the subframe out, but if you'll take this bolt, and there's one that's on top of the frame rail, take those out. That'll loosen this whole assembly, and then that ability to move it around will help you get it out. You're gonna, once you get this guy disconnected, you're gonna turn him, and watch out, like I showed you earlier, the airline at the very top, its little guy is above the subframe and will kind of hang on it. If you'll just rotate it and carefully look for that, you'll be able to get it off, and this will drop out, and you'll be able to take it out, take it apart. And then of course in here, you're gonna disconnect the airline. Taking this connector off gave me better access to get the airline disconnected. Take it out of these little connectors all the way. Here is the gray connector. You're gonna have to undo that as well. Get him undone, get them popped loose, and then you can also get to the third subframe bolt from right up, it's right here. So you'll be able to get that loose, and then you'll be able to get it out. And of course, reverse. I'm gonna leave this airline loose for a minute, and now we're gonna get started on taking these guys apart. So we're gonna disconnect this airline. I actually have a set of these already, but I bought this set off Amazon for like 30 bucks. I know that there's plenty of other videos on how to do it without the tool. I like to have the tools, so I disconnected this clip. So now we're gonna slip this guy in. Push him gently, get him in, and there we go. So all you're really doing is you're just pushing these tabs out, right? So that's all you got to do. There's lots of different ways. So now we're releasing the air. This guy works great though. I've actually seen these in the store, just these white guys. So if you're wondering if you want to get a tool, right? There's plenty of other methods to pick it or whatever. This set works great, and that smallest guy works great. So now we've disconnected the passenger side. So we're going to walk along, and I'll show you the method that I used to get these out of here. So what I do, just very gently, using a pair of needle nose pliers, put a little downward pressure. I'm gonna have to put the phone down to do this, but basically kind of start working it out. Squeeze the bottom, squeeze the top, and that gives enough room to pop that airline out, and it'll pop out, no problem. So now we're gonna do that, take this line apart, and then we're gonna start taking out the airbag. So this guy should be loose now. If I push on him, yep, sure enough, there we go. So easy peasy. So we'll disconnect the clip at the top, take these out, and we'll put in our new Arnots. All right, got all the clips out, easy peasy. And this guy's pretty flexible once you get him out. Obviously you want to be careful with him, but it's not hardline, right? It's plastic and it's got a little flexibility to it, so you got a little movement. I wanted to point something out while I'm under here. That is your adjustment knob for your ride height sensor. Right, so that is your ride height sensor. And if you wanted to make some slight adjustments, you could come in here and just tweak that bolt screw setting and lock it in, and then that would allow you to change it a little bit if you wanted to. If you're watching this video, you've probably watched a lot of other videos. So you can't see it on the phone, but I'm outside. I can see the tab through that slide, through that hole. I don't need a flashlight or anything. So I've got a nice long pair of pliers, and I'm gonna slip her in here, get that tab out. There we go, tab's out. There it is, yet again. A million times we've seen this, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone do the Arnots. So, there we go. Now, all right, so the hose, the air hose actually comes up and goes inside there. So we want to be careful as we take this out that we're kind of working that hose out. We disconnected. We're going to have to pull it through that hole. Shouldn't be a big deal, but we want to be cognizant and careful about pulling that down. There we go. Airbag is out. Just slipped that hose through the top of it. Just went nice and easy. So there it is. It's out. I just want to say there's lots and lots of videos about spring conversions, which is great. You do you. I totally get why people do it. I agree with it if that's what you want to do. Again, I want to stick with the air ride. This is so easy, it's ridiculous. Like, get yourself an air disconnect tool. If you want to buy new airbags, you want to do springs, that's too, but don't be afraid about putting airbags back in. It's so easy to swap out. It beats the hell out of doing springs on normal cars. They just slip out and then reconnect them. Really a very important note is that on the bottom of these guys, they have these little tabs which line up with the holes. They're perpendicular to the holes in the frame. So what that means is before you put them in, you need to rotate them 90 degrees, seat them in there, turn them back, and then put them in the top. So you can see this guy's loose, he hasn't been seated, whereas this guy has been seated. So for putting back the little piece, the clip, these are absolutely the right tool. I have some straight ones I was using earlier. They don't quite reach enough. These curved, I've used these on some of my other videos. I think I got these maybe at Harbor Freight as a set. These are perfect because they can get over there and really get a hold of it and let you push it in. And you need some pretty good push to do it. You're definitely not going to be able to use your hands. And these are long enough with a curve. These are the absolute right tool to get that clip off and on. Alright, so we're getting this top nut off, so I'm doing the double wrench to give me some more leverage. Alright, so it's a 17 on top. For me, I'm hooking a pipe wrench up to this to just grab onto the shock as the opposite. You can also grab onto this little bitty guy up top. For me, it's easier to just use a pipe wrench and wrap around this. Either way, a big crescent wrench on top to hold the shock while you turn it, or a pipe wrench works. So I'm using a pipe wrench. So there we go. So just a matter of sucking it up and getting that nut off. Some penetrating oil helps a lot. And then at the bottom, you've got this through bolt, right, that you're just going to take out. It bolts into that shaft, right? So when we go to put it back on, we'll just bolt it in and then slide it back on that shaft. and bolt it up. So pretty easy, and of course disconnect to the power. So not much to it. So I've got all new bushings and nuts and stuff to go with them, so that's nice. Benefit of buying from Lexus. And of course you get the electronic shocks, all for the low price of 500 and something bucks a shock. Absolutely insane, but I really like the ride, so I sucked it up. So there we go. So new Lexus OEM shocks installed, torqued down. It's basically like 100 foot-pounds on the bottom and 17 or 20 on top. I ended up using that pipe wrench to gently tighten this back up. Once it bottoms out, it bottoms out. So definitely not any kind of grip that would deform anything. So I was able to get a hold of that pretty easy. Flip it back in. Airbags are installed. Air lines are connected. Got our new compressor. I haven't put all the shielding back on yet because I want to put it back in the ground and test it. Before I do that, make sure everything runs okay. And lastly, when you buy a new Arnot compressor, they give you and require you to swap out the relay. So this is the old relay, and we're going to swap them out. That took some doing, but there we go. So new relay installed, relay installed. There we go. All right, that's done. Now we put the tires back on, and we'll see how she runs, and we'll check level.